My sweatshirt strings. I felt it. I felt it with my thumb. Okay, sorry. The cinematography. What was I saying? Welcome back, everyone, to Red Shirt Movie Reviews. This week is episode 5, I believe. No, I'm not wearing a red t-shirt, so we're still 0 for 5 in that category, but we are 5 for 5 in actually reviewing movies, so that's good. We're doing what we're supposed to. Here are our notes for this week. Got it on a nice little sticky note so we can make sure we touch on everything we would like to. If you are new to Red Shirt Movie Reviews, it is a review show about movies where I watch a movie and then I review it in 5 different categories. We go over story, acting, cinematography / production, emotion, and then I give it a final score. If I'd watch it again, final remarks, anything that I need to add on to the review goes in category number 5. So last week we reviewed Hereditary, didn't get a very good score. I kind of like horror movies, but that one was not up to par. I don't know if you guys ended up watching it, but it didn't satisfy me as I thought it should have. This week we are going to be reviewing a new movie that came out probably a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. It is Joker. Now I was scrolling through Twitter and apparently this must be a very controversial movie because some people love it, some people hate it, and there's a bunch of opinions flying around. And obviously my opinion at the end of the day might not even matter to you. You might love the movie, I might hate the movie, or vice versa. So obviously take this review with a grain of salt. But we're going to be reviewing Joker this week, so let's get into category number 1. And as always, that is the story. Now I'm sure you guys know Joker or have heard of Joker, unless you live under a rock. But he's been a villain in some of the DC movies. Is it DC? I'm pretty sure it's DC. Batman's DC, right? So he has been a villain in the DC universe. He was in Batman, obviously is one of the villains. So they took his villain character and made a spin-off and gave him his whole entire movie dedicated to the Joker. So the story of this whole movie is about a man named Arthur that is a party clown. So he goes to different parties and different events and he does his clown tricks and, you know, the whole routine, just your average party clown. Now Arthur's a little bit off. He's got a few things wrong with him. He has this weird disorder where he just randomly starts laughing at a bunch of things. So that plays a part in the movie. You know, when he runs into different characters, he starts laughing. They think he's weird. So that's one thing to kind of show you what's wrong with this guy. He's kind of just a little cuckoo. And I don't know if he has a mental disorder or if maybe he's just weird. I'm not sure. But he definitely has a few screws loose, and that plays out as you watch the movie. So to go a little bit more in depth about the story, Arthur starts at this company that has a bunch of different clowns contracted out to a bunch of different places, right? The people there kind of pick on him and bully him, and he's not really accepted. And the people not accepting him eventually leads into him not thinking he's worth it or doesn't think he exists as a human. So he goes through the struggles of depression and all of the disorders that actual real people struggle with. So that's why I think they were kind of trying to tackle that with this movie and show what some people go through. And he kind of goes down a dark rabbit hole, gets into some trouble with the law, and does some things that are probably not very good and you probably shouldn't be doing. I'm not going to say those things because I don't want to spoil the movie, obviously, but in his lonely tendencies and his depression kind of puts him into a crazy spiral, and then things go south very quickly. Now, there's not a ton I can say about the story because anything I really say is going to kind of tell you what happens in the movie. But obviously there is some killing in the movie. He is a villain, so obviously that's going to happen. But I think the story was very, very good. Now that's kind of how a lot of these categories are going to go. I thought most of them were really, really good. So that's all I'm going to touch on for the story. If you want to know more about actually what happens in the story, you're going to have to watch the movie. Now let's move on to category number 2, and that is the acting. The actor in this movie, I think, is Joaquin Phoenix. Is that a name? Is that a person? Let's find it out here on old trusty Google. Cast. Joaquin Phoenix. Mr. J. Phoenix. Let's just call him that. He plays the role of Joker or Arthur in the movie, and I think he did a stellar job. He played that character unbelievably. Like, he was fully invested into that character and he did not miss a beat. Every emotion that he conveyed actually felt like it was real and not like he was acting. His body type, his mannerisms, his actions, they all meshed together to put together the perfect, I guess you don't want to say depressed person, but almost like a lonely, you know, person with anxiety that goes to therapy. He did it super well, right? So I think the acting was really, really good. All of the other acting in the movie was secondary because he's the main character and he's really the only one we follow around through the movie. But there are some big names in there like Robert De Niro. I guess that's the only big name in there. Robert De Niro. Zazie Beetz though, she's cute. So that's all I'm going to touch on for the acting. It was really, really good. He played the character spot on. Couldn't say it could have been any better at all. It was almost perfect. Let's move on to category number 3. That is the cinematography and production. Now this is where things kind of get a little bit iffy. The cinematography and production was incredible. I don't know who the director of photography was, whoever was doing lighting, all of that looked really, really good. It pulled me into the story as much as it possibly could have in a movie theater. And the way they chose to compose their shots, what to put in their shots, what not to put in their shots, really made the story come together as a whole. I know there was a couple instances where my film brain saw a shot and saw what they were trying to do. For instance, there was one where he was looking out the window of a train, and instead of framing it like this where you had actual looking room, instead they did a shot that is supposed to convey a feeling of trapped or loneliness, and they put his head up against the edge of the frame like this, and that allowed him to not have any looking room, so it kind of made it feel lonely and condensed and, you know, kind of emotionless. So just a couple of things like that I saw. They really chose their shot selection and composed their shots super well, and the coloring was great. You know, they colored the film to make it look dark and lonely and sad, and they did a really good job with that. And a lot of people don't realize that coloring plays a big role in what kind of emotion is pulled out of the movie. But we'll talk about that emotion in the next category. But before we move on to that category, I'd like to talk a little bit about the directing. The one downside I have with this movie, the one big downside is that it was too long. The movie is like 2 hours and 2 minutes, I think, and it could have been like an hour and 20 minutes. The only reason I didn't like the movie very much is because of that one factor. It was 2 hours and 2 minutes. Like, I was getting bored, and the story was so good, and the acting was so good, and the cinematography, like, everything was so good, but then they just dragged everything out. Like, I counted one shot. There was a shot where the camera's moving through the kitchen and he's sitting at a table, and I counted it out, like, in my head. The shot was like 23 seconds long, and I got the gist, I got the point of it after like 3-4 seconds. So why do you need to drag that out for an extra 16-17 seconds? You know what I mean? Like, it just didn't make sense. They made the movie so much longer than it needed to be. Unless they're setting up a movie too, and there's some background details that you might need to know, there were just so many useless shots and useless scenes that I thought personally didn't need to be in the movie. They didn't play an impact. They didn't play a role in the movie. So why even put them in there? So that's one thing I really, really didn't like. The director's choice, like, or editor, I don't know who it was, but the movie was just way too long. Like, it was a problem. That's a main reason that I really, really can't give this movie a high enough score. But we'll touch on the score later, obviously. Let's move on to category number 4, and let's talk about emotion. Now, the emotion this movie pulled out, this is kind of where the controversy came from online. You know, some people were saying that the movie is promoting a mass killer and that depression is okay and that this is how people should feel and blah, blah, blah. But, like, I don't think that did that. A lot of movies have different types of emotions. This obviously had a sad emotion with a little bit of vengeance, you could say, from the main character, but I don't think it was promoting depression or promoting killing or promoting violence. But a lot of people like to say those things just to spark a conversation or start controversy, but I think the emotion was really good. They pulled out exactly what needed to be. I felt bad for the main character, even though he was like a serial killer, and that had to be the goal they were going for. I mean, if that's what they were going for, then they did it spot on. They did what they wanted to. They did what they needed to. So I think the emotion was really good. It pulled out exactly what it needed to. It made me feel uncomfortable, and that's what they were going for. And he's depressed, and do this head thing again, and move on to category number 5, the score. So category number 5 is the score, and my final remarks. Would I watch it again? Was it great? Was it awesome? Was it dumb? Was it stupid? I'd say that the movie was super good, had a lot of potential, but it really just, God, I wanted to like it. I tried to convince myself. I saw this movie like a week ago, and I waited to make the review to try to give it some time to let it sit with me and make it feel better. And you know, it did a little bit. When I first would have scored this, I would have scored it super low. But now that I thought about it a little bit, I mean, it's better than I originally would have done if I would have filmed it right after I got out of the movie. But it just didn't sit with me well, and I don't think it's as good as everyone says. Some people say it's terrible, some say it's awesome, but I think it's somewhere in the middle, you know? It had a great story, great acting, great everything, except it was so long and it was so freaking boring. It was so boring. Not like boring, but like there's only like 3 good parts, 3 like movie spikes, like pew, pew, pew. And just because of that fact, I just can't give it the score that it deserves, you know? It had so much potential, but if I have to get a score, I'm gonna have to go with a 5.5. 5.5, a little above average. It's not great. I almost didn't even want to give it that. If I would have filmed this right after I got out of the movie theater, it probably would have been like a 3, honestly. So take it with a grain of salt. I think it's a 5.5. I definitely would not watch this movie again, but I encourage you guys to go watch it, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys are going to love it. I personally just didn't think it was that great. Maybe they're going to have a second one and it's going to tie it in. They got a bigger grand scheme plan, but I don't know, 5.5. That's just gonna have to do it for me. That means it is time to, ooh, I didn't even use my note sheet. I didn't even look at it one time. I just memorized it all. Okay, it is time to end this video. I have to go edit the video now. This computer right here. I'm gonna grab that SD card. I'm gonna put it in the computer, and then we're gonna, this is gonna be on YouTube for you guys to watch, like right now. Next week, we're gonna be reviewing one of the 4 up on the board. We got 4 in the vault, 5 including this one. So hopefully you guys will tune in for that one. Hope you guys like this episode. If this is your first time here, thanks. Appreciate you watching. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more of these videos, there's a little red box on the bottom. It says something like subscribe. Just grab your mouse, scroll over to it and click it, or maybe it's your finger. Are you watching this on your phone? Click it with your finger. Hit subscribe. And then go to the comments and leave a comment that says, that brown hat you're wearing looks awesome. And your whiteboard's a little messy, but it's whatever. At least you got a cool brown hat. Okay, I'm done. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you for watching. So I will see you guys Tuesday, I guess. Or maybe you won't watch that one. Then I'll see you Thursday. Maybe you won't watch Thursday. Maybe you're just done. Maybe I'll just see you at a Burger King somewhere, or the mall, or a salon getting your nails done. I don't know. All right, we'll see you next week. Oh, you thought I was going to pull that down. You just tricked you again. All right, later. Next week we are. I need to take a drink. My pop. We've got 9 minutes. We've got 8 minutes and 14 seconds to finish this.
Enchanté.